tiny lamp. When we just flip it around, it illuminates, and the same way you'll find that it also can be shut off. Okay, so it's a wonderful point source of light actually for laboratory table distances. This I had procured in Singapore about 4 or 5 years earlier, but nowadays I believe you can procure such items even through Amazon or Flipkart, and they should be available in maybe sets of 10 or 12. They are not very expensive. These are very useful items, and they will help you build a laboratory at home. This is one of the items that I wanted to show you, and then there are some other items which, of course, I will be speaking to you about. But this is a kind of card sheet, ordinary postcard like, you know. But I have cut it at the center by folding it first of all and then taking out a small cut somewhere in the between and then opening it further. Now this becomes your slit for optics experiments. You can see this, it's a very convenient kind of arrangement because we need, some equipment, some small item, and they are not available readily. But we need to learn to create these items at home so that because of the pandemic, we have already lost more than 1.5 years. And it appears that the restrictions on teachers as well as the institutions, they are likely to continue for some more time because of this Omicron. So let us not be bogged down because of these restrictions and let us try to make ourselves or keep ourselves as active as we can be while sitting at home. So for that we need to, create our own items which will perhaps not be as precise as the laboratory equipment or items available, at a price. But nonetheless, what is important is to keep the process of learning alive, and that is what is very well served with such items which are homemade. Secondly, you also have the satisfaction of creating something on your own. If you buy everything with engineering precision, it may help you to perform some experiment better, but then you will never have the satisfaction of having handled the item yourself. That is one thing. Secondly, in the creation of such items, you will have lots of experience of the difficulties, what you encounter as and when you think of designing bigger systems. Bigger systems will always comprise of many blocks, but when you build up those blocks, tiny items are required, and those tiny items later on will give you success or failure depending upon whether you have been able to keep a track of the basic scientific principles involved in the functioning of those items. So that is why I felt like sharing this. I would also be showing you a carton and a bulb which is readily available now. This bulb, of course, has a higher wattage, and the carton belongs to a lower wattage bulb. But nonetheless, I want to draw your attention to the information that is available. Usually, our tendency is to throw away the carton immediately on placing the bulb in a holder. We throw it. Please don't do that. I would suggest that kindly keep that with you. Look at this, for example, LED bulb. The carton gives you technical information. So unless you are conversant with what was expected and what you have really bought, there has to be a cross check somewhere. Even here you will find some information given. Although the font size is too small, nonetheless I'll just draw your attention to the place where this information is available. This is to be put to use when you buy an item. You need to be specific in demanding a particular item. If it has got a code number which you are familiar with, well and good. But if it is not there, please check what was expected, what you wanted to really buy, and whether what you have bought is the same item or not. Look at this also, even on the bulbs, some information is available. This is one such bulb manufactured by Opal company, and then it gives you the basic information. For example, here this is a 9 watt bulb, the same size as a 40 watt conventional bulb, but on this they have printed 9 watt, operating voltage is 220 to 240, and 90 lumens per watt. 90 lumens per watt. We'll speak about this a little later, but then I thought I must bring this to your attention so that as and when you make any kind of purchases, maybe even on Amazon, lots of purchases are being made now online, but you should be really very particular in ordering that item about which you are sure that it will serve your purpose. Otherwise, unnecessarily you'll be losing a couple of days. You have to return the item and again place the order and tell them, see, it was not this item what I wanted, but something else. Then you have to give an explanation, and the seller also takes about 5 to 7 days, to send you back the item of your interest. So I would now request Claire Madam to start with the presentation, and then I'll go on, commenting on various slides. They will help you reinforce the concepts in a better way. Unfortunately, day before yesterday, there were some technical glitches because of which this could not be done. But I'm sure that you will benefit much more through this presentation, but don't just, get glued to the presentation as such. I would say rather pay more attention to what I tell you, because that is the closest I can get to a physical kind of presentation, what would have perhaps been allowed had the situation been perfectly normal. So let us begin with this slideshow. Project-based learning, an engineering-oriented approach, that is the qualifying adjective clause added this year. Last year it was only project-based learning, but this makes it more meaningful, definitely. In what way does it become meaningful? Then that can always be explained, through the next slide. Next slide, please. Aparna ma'am, can you hear me? Hello.
सर मी नेक्स्ट स्लाइड दाखवली दिसत नाहीये का?
नाही, प्रोजेक्ट
एकच.
बेस्ड लर्निंगच्या नंतरची मला
हो हो
स्लाइड शो मध्ये गेलेला नाही. माझ्याकडे जे दिसतंय ते रेग्युलर प्रेझेंटेशन दिसतंय.
हो का? एकच मिनिट. आता दिसतंय का सर?
हा, right. Absolutely fine. So what is project based learning, PBL, and what are its advantages? As and when we learn something about any topic in the world, it could be from any subject, it could be from any subdomain of that subject, we need to be clear about what is actually going to be delivered. So what is project-based learning? Project-based learning is a method of learning through a series of activities planned in advance so as to attain the desired goal. Look at the construction of this statement, and let me assure you that not even a single word or a statement what you will read on the screen has been taken from any of the standard books or journals. That is what I'm really very particular about in every presentation of mine. So I would suggest I would suggest that you pay attention to the wording as well. What is a project? Project is a series of activities, not just one activity, but a series of activities. And this series of activities has to be properly designed well in advance, planned in advance. Otherwise, it will not serve the kind of purpose what you expect. Does it mean that you are already sure about the outcome of the project? No, you are not. But at least a preliminary kind of design or planning has to be in place so that the chances of your success in the project they are higher. Okay. PBL is much effective in promotion of cognitive abilities because it builds a bridge between a teacher and a learner. It also builds a bridge between science and engineering and a learner with his inner satisfaction. Look at these three distinct qualities. Number one, the word cognitive may not be really very familiar to the student. Let me explain. Cognition means understanding, basically, brain activity. It's much less related to emotions rather than to your intellect. So cognition means your understanding, what your brain tells you about a particular thing. You see a person, you tend to develop an impression. You see an item, you tend to believe that this might be perhaps used for this particular purpose and so on and so forth. So all the cognitive abilities, if you go deeper into education, that is not the uh, topic of the day, but in a nutshell, let me tell you, for example, in Bloom's taxonomy, we start with cognitive abilities, starting with information, what sometimes people erroneously call knowledge. Then above knowledge, next higher level is understanding, or some people call it comprehension. Then one step above that, if you can rise, that lead you to application. Then thereafter, there are three more stages over that also. The last stage at the top, is naturalization. The last step, is the ultimate step that you are able to do everything with great understanding, with great care, and you are almost sure about the success of the project which is based on your cognitive activities. So you have to keep this factor in mind that in between a teacher and a learner, the project builds a kind of bridge. Cognitive abilities, they are greatly promoted in project-based learning, and the bridge is also taking shape, to connect the fields of science and engineering. Why do I have to mention science and engineering or science and technology separately? That is basically because one is dependent on the other. I'm confining myself to this statement, which is most relevant today. Perhaps 100 years earlier it was not as effective, but then today it is such that technology is developed on the basis of scientific principles which are well known, but at the same time, the technology once developed, the new gadgets or equipment or appliances, when they take shape, they also help the field of science, the scientists who are exploring new dimensions of activities, new dimensions of knowledge, in various fields, they also greatly benefit through the technological advancement, which manifests itself in the form of appliances or instruments, instruments of measurement. Without measurement, there can be no experiment. Without experimentation, there can be no confirmation of good theory. Otherwise, it all becomes only blah blah blah. This is just a speculation. Speculation and theory, they get converted. Sometimes people use the word models in science. So, what is a model? Model is, unless it is verified, it does not become established theory. The major part or the major emphasis or thrust of this today's discussion is going to be on engineering project, but maybe some other time if you interact with me personally over the phone or email, I'll be able to share more information about this scientific field in some other timing. So why is it important? Because this project-based activity, it definitely paves the way for better employment of the individual. Today, when people talk about our economy or the global economy, national economy, state economy, and so on and so forth, there is a kind of, a pessimism, what I often see, what I often learn through hearing also, comments, people's comments. Although they may not really, be experts in the field, but it's a common man's perception what matters. But then, what is the reason? The person feels helpless. The person feels that he or she is not able to get a suitable employment. Why? Basically, because the potential is very much there, but then they have not directed their efforts in the right direction. You see, you have to learn to convince the other party, a potential employer in general. It could be government sector or private sector, or if you want to stand on your own feet, you could think of starting your own enterprise. But anywhere, you need to communicate. You need to share your expertise. You need to exhibit your potential, what qualities you possess, and for that, the level of confidence matters most. The level of confidence matters most. But where does the confidence come from? The confidence comes from having performed numerous activities which have not been a part of your regular teaching or which have not been a part of your regular laboratory work. So where would those activities emerge from? These activities, they are going to emerge from your own initiative and project-based learning, that is project work, which for your first year is worth only 2 credits. It's just a modest beginning, mind well. That is the bare minimum what the university expects from you. But please do not be content with only 2 credits and something like 4 hours per week. That is just the moderate expectation of the university from you. The more you invest in terms of timing, in terms of your cognitive abilities, the more you will benefit from it. So PBL takes a break from rote learning. What is rote learning? Rote learning means it does not follow any syllabus, any specific teaching or learning methods, or even the format of examination is not prescribed. But in rote learning, it is prescribed, but in your project-based learning, it is not prescribed. So it allows you to breathe more freely. It is like, breathing when your mask is on and breathing when the mask is not there. So I would like to just, remind you that this is a very unique kind of course which you should enjoy to maximum degree. Let us go on to the next slide, please. Rag ma'am, next
Sir,
slide, please.
yes. Next slide मी केली चालू.
What is an engineering-oriented approach? This qualifier clause in the title originates to the pair of words used in conjunction, science and technology. Often, even government departments also, they bear these words in what you can say, they exist together in whichever way, you frame the word, you frame the name of the ministry as such. There is a close symbiotic relationship, what I refer to, between science and technology that is developed by the engineering fraternity. So where exactly, we have to be careful about. We have to know the difference between science and technology or science and engineering faculty first of all. What is the purpose? What is the purpose of science faculty? Science aims at understanding the physical world. That is, it is exploring knowledge. And engineering faculty, is that the same goal for engineering faculty? No. For engineering faculty, the goal is not to create new knowledge or not to explore the physical world around, but whatever knowledge is there through the efforts of the scientists, through established sciences, that understanding to be properly used, put to use, so as to provide reliable, safe, and economical solutions so that they become affordable, of course, to various problems in the physical world. There are numerous examples. They might be at several different levels. Simple most problems, moderately complex problems, and most complex problems. But whichever direction you turn your eyes into, you will often come across such problems. For example, let me just cite my one of my old simple activities. When I was as young as you, sometimes I used to work late nights, and because of that, I had to really, take a nap in the afternoon because I used to be overstressed. So maybe an hour or two, and then I would feel fresh again to start with my activities, studying, learning, performing some experiments, and so on. But then sometimes it used to so happen that during the afternoon hours, when I was just about to relax, then some salesman, would push the doorbell and interrupt. Now it used to be an irritating experience for me. Then I thought sometimes, I must promote with some, and the irritating part of that was that the person would have no time. Even if, I was coming out of a washroom, it would take 3 to 4 minutes sometimes, to respond to the call. But that fellow will keep on pushing the doorbell, switch again and again. So before you reach to the door to open it, that level of irritation used to be little higher. Then I said, let's do something about it. Okay, if there is a visitor, at my door, then when he pushes the switch once, the bell should sound. But thereafter, till the time I come out of the washroom and reach the door, it could take something like 2 minutes. So that switch should be now deactivated. That was a simple, task that I had set before me, and I created circuit, which really, showed great purpose. Till the time I would go out to the door, the doorbell will not simply sound even if that person, was impatient and pressed the switch over and over again, tan. No, nothing of that. You have to wait for 2 minutes till the time the person from within the house, comes out to the door and responds. And this was later on published in one of the issues of Electronics for You also. And it was so popular that it was later on also included, if I remember it right, in one of the annual compilations of Electronics for You. So, kind of, ideas which emerge in your mind, they come, or rather they originate in your own mind based on your own problems, minor problems or moderate problems or very complex problems, and the way you overcome them, when you are able to come out with a technical solution, then that technical solution greatly boosts your level of confidence, and that is why you have to learn to undertake, projects starting from very simple projects to very high level projects, which will perhaps involve not only a single person's effort, but maybe a group can work together on different modules or different blocks as such. Project-based learning is possible in science also, but then it would conclude, with some additional knowledge of phenomenon, whereas in engineering field, it will come out with maybe a product by overcoming some challenging. I remember I had fitted that in a soap case, and it worked really very well. And it involved only something like 3 batteries. I remember for 4.5 volts or so, because that is the voltage at which 555, it starts working. The timer IC 555, and I had used just 2 ICs in that, and it worked beautifully well. So that is actually, the close relationship between science and technology, that you have some knowledge of the timer IC that comes in the science domain, but how and where you will use it. When we learned timer 555, we were told no only about the 3 modes, namely astable mode, bistable mode, and monostable mode. But no one told us in which direction one of these modes could be utilized. But later on we learned this, through a practical example. So that is what your mind should be always working upon, rather than only, something that is not so meaningful. Celebrations is a part of life, no doubt. But then celebrations, should also be innovative. That is my sincere feeling. Let us go on to the next slide, please. Next slide, please. Some examples let us begin with. And the very first, that occurs to my mind is a Wheatstone bridge circuit, what you all have learned in the +2 level. We all have studied this, and perhaps, most of the students like this. Even at the time of examination, when your fingers are crossed, you pray, ki, "Arey, mala Wheatstone bridge experiment Wheatstone bridge experiment." That was the kind of feeling. Why? Because it was considered to be one of the simple experiments. The formula also was very simple: R1, R2, R3, R4. Then quickly you remember R2 upon R1 has to be R4 upon R3. That's all, nothing more than that. But having performed that experiment using resistance boxes, using the ready-made setup available in your own laboratory, did you ever take out time and apply your mind? Did you ever ask your mind, see where I can use this Wheatstone bridge in real life? You see, people are innovating in different times, maybe different centuries, and there must have been some need which guided them to overcome that particular problem. So that was done earlier, but then now in the 21st century, are we in a position to utilize those ideas, what those were constructed perhaps, in 19th century or so, or 20th century early part? So when I thought of this, it occurred to me again a coincidence that I used to travel on my two-wheeler. It was a small moped then, and somewhere on the road, perhaps, there was some pit, and because of which there was a sudden jerk I had not expected, and it was the summer time, so I was wearing sunglasses. So my sunglasses, they were already partially humid, wet, because I was sweating afternoon travel. So it fell off on the road and only one of the glasses broke. Now, obviously, I wanted to fix that, and therefore I went to the optician who was known to me, and I requested him to replace that particular, broken glass. The person who was elderly and he was well known to my father, he told me, "Ki, Vijay, this cannot be done, as simply, and we'll have to replace both the glasses." Actually, as a student of science, that question arose in my mind. I come from a middle class family, and therefore my thinking also is greatly affected because of that. So I said, "Ki, I will spend maybe 100 rupees, provided I am convinced that the job is worth 100 rupees. If a task demands something like only 50 rupees, then I would not like to part away with 100 rupees for that task which is worth 50 rupees in my mind." So something similar, was the thought process when I spoke to that gentleman, and he told me, "Ki, you cannot think of changing just one glass because we do not have any guarantee. We cannot decide whether the two glasses are matching. Otherwise, it will badly reflect on your eyesight." I did not have any number. I did not have to use, glasses as such, specs then. But still, that gave the kind of tickling, the initial stimulus to me. The person told me, of course, I got the glasses replaced, but then that gave rise to that impetus, and then I solved that problem, which, was based on this Wheatstone idea. So what did I do? I'll show you in the next slide. Next slide, please. Look at this now arrangement. This is a hand-drawn circuit diagram, simple. At the top, you see something like the sun, what each one of us has drawn while we were in standard 1 or 2, I believe. That was one of the first kind of pictures which we used to draw in our drawing session. So S is a source, and I have shown that it is an incandescent bulb. What do I mean by incandescent? Incandescent means a filament bulb basically. Filament bulbs are not too rare, but not as popular as they used to be earlier, mainly because of these LEDs now, which are available in lots of brands and plenty of varieties. But then let me take this opportunity to quickly give you some basic understanding of the types of sources. See, why do we choose an incandescent bulb in this situation? That is basically because we have three types of sources. White light source, which is a continuum, something like the solar spectrum. Okay. Then you have uh, polychromatic sources, something like a tube light. If you see using a spectrometer, you will find that there are some gaps. Although overall light appears to be white, it cannot be called as white light. The white light, term is reserved only for continuous spectrum. And then the third one is something what is relatively more known to people who have been working with scientific world. Uh, that is called as monochromatic source will be the third variety, in which you have got a narrow band of wavelength, something like the sodium vapor lamp of the last century, or something more narrow than that will be today's lasers in the visible spectrum. What you see, even the diode laser, what you use in keychains, that is an example of a monochromatic source. But here, since our task was to check the matching properties of glasses, therefore it was advisable to use an incandescent bulb which goes closer most to the solar spectrum, because it is the radiation emerging out of the heating up of the filament, and that is why this was actually source was used. Now, just below that, at the beginning, I showed you a slit, made in a card sheet, something like that, two slits, S1 and S2 of identical dimension you get to see. And through those two slits, you have created a pair of coherent sources. of light, which are again, of course, white light. It's a continuum. In front of that now, down below you find the Wheatstone circuit. The only difference being two arms of the Wheatstone bridge, they are containing the light dependent resistors. Again, these light dependent resistors, they have to be matched devices. What do you mean by matched devices? Not that they should look alike, but their optical properties should be alike. You know that light dependent resistance, it changes its resistance, and the resistance goes on decreasing as the level of illumination or the brightness increases. You throw more light on the LDR and the resistance goes on decreasing, and the change could be of the order of 3 orders or 4 orders sometimes. It depends upon what is the level of illumination that you are taking, the LDR to. So the only way to check whether the devices are matching or otherwise are to use optical benches in the science laboratory or engineering laboratory, and check the values of the LDR resistance at different distances on the optical bench by illuminating the LDR with a suitably sized and placed source. If you do that and plot the graph, then if the two curves they match, then the LDRs can be said to be matching devices, and then they can be placed in front of these two slits. Down below, R3 and R4, they are there as in the conventional Wheatstone bridge, and the circuit is suitably powered using one battery, two batteries is a matter of choice. But what is important is at the center you find the null detector, or what is a common zero-centered galvanometer. You all recall that for sure. But let me tell you that it is not only the zero-centered galvanometer, but later on you could think of using a more sensitive kind of detector as well. So what do it do? You find that there is a gap in between the slit S1 and LDR1 and slit S2 and LDR2. In this gap, you are going to hold, or rather place, using a holder, fixed size holder, so that it remains stable, and the orientation of the two glasses to be compared must also be the same. Okay, so you are having one glass which was broken, and the other glass, if you have uh, keep them in these two adjacent arms, and what you would expect to do is you can check that the null detector, if they were identical, card out of the same parent, then in that case you find that the galvanometer should give you zero reading because they belong to the same original piece. Now the problem is one of the glasses is broken, and therefore you need to replace that with a proper substitute. So what you do is, whichever glass was intact, that you leave in that arm, and whatever samples you have which you feel just with visual inspection that they are very close to the standard unbroken glass, you go on putting them one by one in between S2 and LDR2 using a suitable holding arrangement. Now what you find, if they are matching, then that null detection mechanism, namely the galvanometer, should show you zero. But if it is not so, maybe only over a part of the spectrum, we'll find that the deflection is either to the right or to the left, so which indicate that the glass is not matching. So this way you can get to know about the matching of the two glasses also. Now this arrangement, when you perform this experiment in the laboratory, it was a super simple setup, it was a good setup. But if I replace this galvanometer, what is the galvanometer actually doing? It is only giving you a measure, crude measure of the error signal, as we call it in engineering. But you could always pick up that signal, amplified further using something like an operational amplifier, what you might have learned about, preliminarily in the plus two stage, or maybe learning now. You can amplify the signal so that this arrangement can be made as sensitive as you like. So original source is one. Out of that we have derived two coherent sources. Then we have allowed the light to fall on two glasses, and we have placed those two glasses such that the LDR1 and LDR2, which are in adjacent arms, they will be affected accordingly. If the uh, glasses are matching, the amount of light reaching both of them, including the distribution of the wavelength, must also be the same. So the Wheatstone bridge circuit, it will show you zero reflection, otherwise it will show you a proper reflection. So that was the idea. This was put to use later on, but it was not commercial, let me tell you, because there are some based on pricing, based on also the extent of business what one generates even otherwise. So that was one of the ideas. Let us go on to the next slide now. Let us take another example of using an operational amplifier. An operational amplifier, something like a general purpose operational amplifier 741. Even today, it will not cost you more than just 15 rupees, 1 5. We study that, we remember the pin diagram, we know what is inverting amplifier, what is non-inverting amplifier, and so on and so forth. But yes, now as a prospective engineer, your mind should start thinking about where do I use it. I know that it's an amplifier, but is there any real life situation where I can think of using it? The answer is yes. You can think of using this, and how I have put it to use by creating an instrument, but on board I did not encapsulate it, I did not put it in a box format. I'll show you in the next circuit diagram how I use it for measurement of transparency. What is transparency? Transparency is the ability of any laminar object to pass light, particularly the visible light, because our eyes are able to see only part of the spectrum. The spectrum is quite huge, but then it's only a very small, minuscule portion of that visible light radiation which we are able to see, and based on that we talk about transparency. A window pane is non-transparent or translucent in between, that is what we commonly call as the milky glass, diffuse light. So we need to have a measuring instrument for that. Did you ever come across that? No. I'm sure that you must not have seen any kind of transparency meter so far. Are they not available? They could be available somewhere, but I never bothered because I always believed in solving my own problems with my own style, with whatever was available. That has been, something given to me by my guru. That Professor Dattaprasad Khandelwal, the founder president of IIPT, he was a close friend of another legendary figure, Professor Babulalji Saraf, a scientist G in Bhabha Atomic Research Center who was personally requested to accept some responsibility by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. That was the time. And he did so gladly. They created an institution called CDP, Center for Development of Physics Education, and during 70s, their work was outstanding. It was greatly appreciated at the international level. The point is, Khandelwal had one line of thinking, and Professor Saraf, he was poles apart, North Pole and South Pole. Professor Saraf, having enjoyed, the complete support of the government, used to always think about highest precision. If he wanted to construct even a simple pendulum, frictionless support means he would use a diamond there. Diamond being the hardest substance to be used at the fulcrum. But Professor Khandelwal was at the very, very down to earth level, and he would say, ki, for me, what matters as a teacher is to convey the principle in an effective manner. So I do not need your diamond. Why? Because I do not want to create a museum of scientific experiments or engineering experiments. I want thousands and thousands or millions of replicas so that the students put that knowledge into use. So in a way, you can say that Professor Sattva Prasad Khandelwal, he was more of an engineer than a scientist. Coming back to our point, this simple example, of operational amplifier making a transparency meter, how do you use that? Using very preliminary knowledge, let me tell you, that will be seen to you, shown to you in the next slide. So let us go over to that circuit and see what exactly is it. This is a circuit with all component values given because I believe myself in being transparent with my students. When I am talking about transparency, charity begins at home. I don't believe in any patenting of knowledge. No ideas to be patented. Knowledge should freely flow, and then only it will help the uh, you know civilization at the largest level, I would say. But at least the students, so far as I am concerned, the level of interaction, it will benefit the students truly, because out of 100, at least 10, 15, 20 people, they'll feel that yes, we have got all the information, why not put it to use? Because all the parts are available in Pune market. So let us see. What do you see in this circuit diagram? On to the left, you have a simple potential divider or a voltage divider, as it is sometimes called. You have a potentiometer at the top, P2, 1 mega ohm. You have a light from the bulb, something like the incandescent bulb, what I showed you in the Wheatstone bridge circuit, and that is falling on a photodiode. Down below, you have got fixed resistance of 7.5 kilo ohm, termed as R1, and thereafter, onto the right side, what it is connected to is only an inverting amplifier. It is an inverting amplifier. So simple. Inverting amplifier will always have a gain equal to the feedback resistance divided by the input resistance, namely 165 kilo ohm divided by 10 kilo ohm, 16.5. With, of course, a change in the polarity. That is why it is called as the inverting amplifier. At the output, I have connected a digital multimeter. And then, as usual, you have a offset null potentiometer P1 also connected between 1, 4, and 5. As you are aware, 4 and 7 are the power supply terminal, and 1 and 5 are these offset null terminals, which you can learn about in any of the manuals, or even on the net. They are now freely available, the specifications of this operational amplifier 741. What is the idea? I want to use this this, of course, we will require plus or minus 12 volt power supply, DC power supply, regulated power supply as far as possible, so that your readings, they become more reliable. What we do is, light from the bulb is allowed to fall on the photodiode. Now let me ask you a rudimentary question, a very basic question. When we talk about transparency, what could be the limit? Something what we call as opaque, totally opaque. We are not able to see anything through that sheet, maybe. That means transparency is zero. And on the other hand, 100% transparency. Is it available in the nature anywhere? You might have seen a variety of transparent objects, something like glass or plastic or whatever. The milk bags, what we get to see, many a time some of those transparent bags, we call them transparent, but do they allow light to completely pass through? All the light coming from one side, is it allowed to pass through to the other side? No. There will be some absorption, there will be some scattering, and therefore we come to the conclusion that in nature nothing is 100% transparent. As an index, if we wanted to know or measure, then that index will have the limit 0 on one side and 1 on the other side. So that is what we are aiming at. Our digital multimeter will read 1 at one extreme and 0 at the other extreme. So while we calibrate this simple setup, what we do is, light from the incandescent bulb. What was the nature of the bulb? I told you it's a filament bulb. Let me give you more particular about that bulb also. I had used 4.7 volt Eveready Commander torch bulb. You all know what is Eveready Commander torch, one which has got a handle over it. So that might be available in the market even today, I don't know. But then that was what was used, 4.7 volt bulb. And if you block the light of that bulb, in between the light from bulb where I have written those words and shown two arrows downwards, inclined, falling on L14G1 photodiode, you block it completely using an opaque, something like a black India rubber sheet, so that not even a single photon from the bulb will fall on the photodiode. Now you know that photodiode will generate current proportional to the amount of light that it receives. If there is no light falling, then obviously at the input of the inverting amplifier, the voltage will be zero, expected to be zero. There might be some leakage current. So what we do is, We block the light from our filament bulb completely by holding a piece of opaque object and preventing light from falling on the photodiode. Whatever is the little current that still passes through the potential divider, it will be amplified by a factor of 16.5. So the digital multimeter will read a couple of millivolts. We bring it to zero using the optional arrangement potentiometer P1. Now this is one end of the calibration. Other end of the calibration, just remove that opaque laminar sheet of rubber. Now entire light from the bulb is allowed to fall on the photodiode L14G1. Now the input will rise immediately because the current is manifold. It will be amplified by the same factor of 16.5. Now the output might show you something, like 1.1, 1.2 or whatever. Now this time we are not in a position to disturb potentiometer P1 because we have already used it once in the first calibration. So what we do is we adjust the variable potentiometer being used as a variable resistance P2 in the upper arm of this potential divider arrangement so that the output now reads 1. So that is the other end of the calibration. Now our instrument is all set. You bring in any damn transparent material in the world in a laminar form of wood, depending upon your convenience, and hold it in between the filament bulb and the photodiode L14G1. What you get at the output on the digital multimeter, if it's on the 2 volt range or 1 volt range, if it has got, it will show you something like 0.84, 0.85, 0.69, and so on. So it quickly gives you the transparency as an index. You can make use of this arrangement, simple arrangement, not only to check our idea, our perception of transparency. You might have seen colored glasses, red glass, blue glass, even gelatin papers. What we use at the time of Diwali for making lanterns, they could be stacked. Place them side by side, place them in card sheets, stick them properly so that you can think of using them as optical filters and then see how much of light is going on to the other side. You will find that with thickness, the transparency goes on decreasing. So wonderful study is possible using this simple kind of arrangement. Let us go over to the next slide and see, if anything else can also be done. In today's lecture, I have myself decided to confine to the ideas in optics. But let me tell you repeatedly that we need to think in a similar manner about every other aspect of physics. Why I say physics, not chemistry? Basically because most of the engineering activities, they are founded on physics principles. You might be aware that even the people, who are deeply involved in biological research, they have started using physical principles in order to come across, better conclusions, more reliable conclusions, or even to create new instruments for biomedical engineering. In IIT, I remember to have met incidentally, in their coffee shop, one of the girls who was barely about 26 or 27 years old. And over the cup of coffee, because there was no other place where I could sit, it was the only place where I could sit. One chair was vacant. So I just got her permission, sat down, and just casually I asked her, what are you busy with? She told me about her specialization and all. At the age of 26 or 27, the girl was handling 7.5 crores worth of projects. So that is the power of project work. Since we are talking about projects, I thought of sharing this small anecdote with you. Let us go to the lux meter now. Lux meter using application in a mobile phone. This is my own mobile phone, Samsung Galaxy Pro. And in this now I have downloaded many applications are there, but let me show you what is of interest. Look at this. Out of this list, I have got Lux here. It converts my mobile into a lux meter, a scientific instrument. Okay. you might find that the numbers are fluctuating. Your eyes don't sense small fluctuations of light, but your instrument is highly sensitive, so it will definitely, show you the fluctuations. Even if you, in one of the later videos, I'll show you, we sometimes, we tend to take it for granted that if the source and the receiver, both of them, they are stable, then the reading should be stable. No, it is not that way. Because of the small fluctuations in the voltages which take place, which our eyes, they are not able to sense the small reflections, more small effects of that voltage fluctuation. But look at this now. If I just remove this curtain, this reading will quickly increase. See this? I'm allowing more light to fall by opening up one of the curtains, and now you will feel. You can find this. Can you see this? I hope you all can see that. Okay, 27, 29. I go closer to the window, it will receive more and more light. The sensor is somewhere at the top, and you will find that it gives you a fairly precise value of the uh, light intensity. I think it's time for me to again, give you a little bit of orientation towards measurements in light. You see, whenever there is a source of light, something like the filament bulb, what we spoke about, we are inputting electrical energy. It could be DC or it could be AC, no problem. What part of that energy is converted into light? We do not know. So basically, we have to, when we think of measuring the light intensity or flux, as we may call it, usually our ideas related to energy, they are originating because of our formal training. They come from units like ergs or joules, and then power 1 watt is equal to 1 joule per second, and so on and so forth. Okay. But when it comes to optics, since all our measurements, are related to our own eyes, we are required to be more cautious with them. So the first thing that you need to remember is any source of light, what you get to see, it will have a radiant flux. Radiant flux, that means radiation. Out of that, a part of it will be called as the luminous flux, or some people call it luminous power. That means something what your eyes are able to respond to, something that your eyes are able to receive, and develop some understanding about something, in nature, maybe the level of light outside, ambient light today, and so on. So therefore, not only that, again, our sensitivity of the eyes is different for different wavelengths, and this is taken care of. When we go out on busy roads and when we look at the traffic signal, we see red, amber, and then green. There is a great, a scientific reason why uh, red is used for stopping, amber for just get ready, and green is the person is allowed to go. So that is related to the sensitivities of our eyes. And according for this variation of the sensitivity, we are required to measure light, respond to, luminous flux or luminous power. Of course, the measurements are also centuries old. When they started, that was the time when there was no electricity. So people started, with units. As you are aware, candles have been extensively used in foreign countries, Western countries, so therefore candle was considered to be a kind of standard. And based on that, the unit of candela came in. Today's terminology, if you want to say one candela, it will be one candela will be roughly about 1 upon 683 watt, very close to that. But again, we have to remember one thing, that when we are talking about the sources, The brightness of the light, it goes on diminishing according to the inverse square law. At great distances, even a big source appears like a small source or a point source, something like the stars. And the amount of light received, in two dimensions, if we wanted to plot a graph, we are using to angles we usually measure, and we can draw, for example, characteristics of a microphone or characteristic directional characteristics of a antenna, things like that. They are often using polar graphs to give you an idea about the response. But in three dimensions, a source will emit light not in two dimensions, it emits in three dimensions. So therefore, instead of the unit of radians, which is restricted to two dimensions, you have to go over to steradians. So when such measurements are made, we talk of lumens and later on lux. What is lux? Lux is 1 lumen per square meter of area held perpendicular to the direction of incidence. And that is what this application lux, what just showed you. The earlier unit is also available, mind well, more information and what are the standard values, they are also available in the same application. Uh, Foot candle is the other unit. It is also there. Aparna ma'am can just, turn on the camera for a while on this. So foot candle is also there. So if you wanted to change the unit, that is also possible. If you wanted to change the unit, that is also possible. Okay. So traditional British units are also still used in some of the countries, and that is why it becomes all the more important to be aware about these variations. Okay, let us get back to the slide again. Let us get back to the slide again. So what do we do now? Let us play this small video and see what exactly we could learn out of it. This is just a very crude kind of video. Every video that I'm showing, it is my own creation in my spare time. And in order to respect the memory limits, of mobiles, or you know overcome the difficulties, now there is no commentary in this particular video. Just watch what you are able to see. I have used the same mobile what I just now showed you, and the point source what I had shown you earlier at the beginning of the session. Look at this and tell me what your observation tells you about. Does it really throw any additional light literally? See, so what I have done is in the early morning hours, I have brought the light closer to the sensor from a distance of something like 1.5 meters or slightly less than that. Okay. And then what is the revelation? The revelation, one of the things, what your uh, observation should be is that the mobile screen, as you can see, it also goes on changing its own illumination in order to adjust for the ambient light level. So long as this point source was little away from the mobile, the screen was rather dark. But then as the light source went on approaching the sensor of the mobile itself, then in order to allow you to see what is there on the screen, the intensity of the mobile screen also adjusted itself. And that is why at the end you are able to see the mobile, but in the initial part you are not able to see even the mobile. You must be wondering, see what is happening. We can see only darkness around. So these things, they come to light and they enter your head in a much more convincing way. They throw more light on your process of experimentation. Try it once, twice, thrice. So many small questions they will emerge in your mind. They must. and then try to discuss your experiences, small observations. Yeah, I had done this and this happened. You ask your friend. If you are unable to find out a convincing answer, throw that question as a challenge to your group of friends. That will boost your process of learning collectively. You know, that is a simple tip what I am passing on to you. Can we not actually test inverse square law in optics? Yes, but it will be not an engineering project. It will be a science project at the school level. But now let us see if we are able to take it this lux meter, that is my own mobile with the application of lux meter. Can I use it for something else? Let us see over to the next slide and let us see. Now again, let us watch this video. This is actually a setup which is already existing in my drawing hall. But then I thought of, just inducing a little bit of idea in your mind. See, this lux meter can you not use to compare and make decision while purchasing a particular brand of light, brand of lamp? I mean, you are using LEDs for sure because filament bulbs 40 watt, 60 watt, 100 watt, 20 watt, 15 watt, what is commonly referred to as 0 watt bulbs, they are now getting extinct, obsolete. Why? Because their efficiency is low. With LED bulbs, the efficiency is high. So what could be the goal? What could be the objective for your engineering project? One of the projects could be just compare the lamps available in the market. Go on changing different brands for the same wattage. You would have arrived at a set of observations, or perhaps you could think of doing something else. Just stick to one particular brand, maybe something like Wipro. You buy every possible wattage, 1 watt, 2 watt, 3 watt, 5 watt, 8 watt, 7 watt, whatever it is, up to say 25 watt LED bulb. Now let me tell you, 25 watt LED bulb will be far too strong. It will also help you understand what are the limitations of this software itself. Can I directly place this, lux meter under the sun and hope to know the correct value of the light intensity? Possibly not. There will be some limitation, something like 10,000 lux. Okay, that should be possible. But this again, you have to find experimentally because no one is going to tell you directly. The person who might have created the application, he might be a good programmer. Okay, he might be an IT expert, but then he may not have a sound knowledge of the variation, the degree of variation in different light sources. It is left to you. Why do you need that? Being engineers, I told you at the beginning of the session that at the uh, operating level, I should say, your focus should be on utilizing the knowledge for overcoming some problems which are facing, faced by the society. Fine. But you would definitely come across some situations wherein the basic information, data itself is not there. The people perhaps did not turn their attention to that aspect, but being engineers, you should be able to conceive a schematic arrangement which you can put to use by way of an engineering experiment and obtain that information yourself. And since that information is directly procured by you through your own setup, obviously degree of reliability is very high. Rather than searching the internet and looking out for numbers and then wondering whether that thing is matching with something that I have in mind, this bulb. How much exactly is the efficiency of this? What they might have printed might be a guideline, maybe a range. But exact efficiency of this bulb, I alone can know. For that, I need to have measurement. For that, I need to have measuring instrument. I would be utilizing applications like this. And this is not true only for optics. As I said, in the same mobile, I will show you there is another application also. This application is frequency generator is there. I'll just, allow you to listen to the signal produced using that. I hope you all can hear it very clearly. This is a frequency generator, signal generator we call it. Now I don't have to go to the laboratory. I can create sine wave, I can create square wave, I can create any, sound of my frequency. Suppose I wanted to change over to bring it down to, this is something like 1309. This is there in my pocket. So I can definitely, conceive a sound experiment, or I can think of checking my own ears also in a scientific way. So such things, they were earlier not there under your control. The idea of showing you, although this is not a part of optics, the idea is to, so to say, stress upon this, that you are now free birds. Because of the pandemic, people started thinking in many unconventional directions. Otherwise, this traditional learning would have continued for at least another 1-2 decades. I'm sure about that. But then, sometimes, a calamity, it serves as an opportunity. And this is one such case wherein people, including the higher ups in the educational sector, they started thinking of probable solutions to the difficulties that are being encountered by the students and teachers alike. So therefore, I said that you can just be looking out for, searching for various applications and think of using those applications to construct new experiments, to conceive new projects. That will be a wonderful thing for you. Okay, let us go over to the next, because we have to also keep an eye on the timing. This video can be shown, please. And as I mentioned, voltage fluctuations also reflect, even if the source is steady and the receiver is steady, that is your measuring instrument is steady, hands are not shaky, yet you will find that the instrument shows you fluctuating readings, indicative of the lack of stability in the voltage provided to the bulb. Now this is steady. It should have given a steady reading, but that doesn't happen. So this is a minute observation, what none of the books would give you, but then this is what you actually get to see. And then only, your brain starts thinking about that. Okay. And you can always, check to what degree the intensity goes on increasing. I mentioned about lux per square meter. You go closer, bring the sensor closer, then it will show you an increase in the reading, because now at that distance more energy is passing per unit area. See, 457. Let us go on to the next slide now. Two-wheeler headlamp study. This is another direction. You see, sometimes it so happens that you are already having the instrument with you, but you don't know what to do with it. You are carrying mobile. That is, you are carrying at least 20 to 25 different measuring instruments in your pocket. Trust me. What do you do? Help the automobile engineers, to perform better. Look at that motorcycle, what you get to see in the photograph. Look at the aura. Now, is it necessary to replace such a lamp? Look at the fog around. The tinge is yellowish, which is very useful. But suppose instead of this, you just replace it for the sake of brighter light, you replace that with a power LED. Is that a good decision? I wouldn't suggest that, you should be going for the change of headlight using a power LED. Okay, power LED gives you bright light, but then what about the distribution of that light? Will it help you if you are to stay in any of the parts of the northern Indian provinces? No, it will not. It will in fact create more problems for you. So it is not only the brightness what matters, it is also the spread of the light. And this spread of light, mind well, it also depends upon what kind of reflector you are using. There are many people who do not use the dimmer and dipper at all in their vehicles. They are to be used. Otherwise, the person who is coming from the opposite direction is likely to come and hit you, because he would not be able to sense, as if, for a moment the person is turned blind. So that should not happen. So for that, the study of headlamp, different reflectors, different powers of the bulbs, whether they are incandescent bulbs, you will still find that there is a great variety in the headlights designed by many different companies. Might it be Bajaj, might it be Hero Honda, or might it be any other company. Okay, Honda, original Honda, or Yamaha. All these, you can study as an engineering project and then come out with some recommendation based on your own studies. See, this performs better, that is not so good. Okay, aesthetic sense is one thing, but aesthetics is not everything. We need to be benefited using that particular arrangement of headlights. Only then one can say that yes, the vehicle is really good. Something that looks good may not be really good for your eyesight. So using power LED is definitely not a good thing, because you will have more focused light. You will not able to see, anyone who is trying to overtake you from left, and then there might be an accident someday. So therefore, think twice before you think of replacing any of the conventional lamps provided by the manufacturers themselves. Maybe a couple of years earlier, perhaps people might think that that time, LEDs were not available, therefore they used it. And some people, the mechanics also sometimes they will tell you, this elongate the battery life. अरे बाबा battery life तो बढ़ेगा, that is fine. But what about your own life? बैटरी छोड़ो, तुम्हारे खुद के लाइफ को चिंता करो, उसके बारे में सोचो. So therefore, such decisions they can be made, and for that you will be able to assist the manufacturers of automobiles by providing them the outcome of your engineering project. So this is again another idea in which you can use the lux meter. Stand running is also okay, fine, not that you have to take it out, okay. Different ambient light levels and what is the visibility of your vehicle. Sky is the limit, let me tell you, of thinking about such engineering projects. One full batch can be kept engaged on different aspects of such a project. Someone can undertake, study for two-wheelers. Someone else will perhaps think of three-wheelers. Someone else will think of four-wheelers. Different brands are also there. Different types of light arrangements are also there. Different models are there. Hundreds of models of vehicles are there in the market. So one complete year, if I decide, you can all be kept busy only on projects in optics, that too for the automobile sector. Trust me. Okay, let us go over to the next slide. Two-wheeler headlight study. Let me just skip. I have already spoken enough about this. Testing your own eyes using the lux meter for different colors. This is another idea. Okay, we have a lot to learn from the external world, but what about our own world? Ultimately, where does the knowledge, is created? The knowledge in the true sense of the term knowledge, not only information, but wisdom, decision making ability. That will be the closest, perhaps, making a sound decision. So, for that, I have to use my own senses, I have to believe my own eyes, I have to trust my own ears, and so on. So suppose, I wanted to avoid my visit to an ophthalmologist and check my eyes still. What do I do? For that, a simple arrangement I can definitely construct myself. Let us see, the arrangement what I can put to use. Again, something similar to that was used earlier. Let us go to the next slide. We have to learn to make monochromatic sources, polychromatic sources, depending upon our requirement. So how do I construct my own crude monochromatic sources to test my own vision? Left eye separately, right eye separately, both eyes working simultaneously. It is simple. First of all, what you can do is you can construct variable intensity, variable brightness, bulb, incandescent bulb, by just having a potentiometer working as a variable resistor in series with a battery of suitable voltage depending upon the bulb rating. It could be something like 4.7 volt, what I used earlier, already commanded torch bulb. Yes, that can be put to use. And then thereafter, now the slit also I have shown you, made out of a card sheet. And then you can have GG, that could be a gelatin filter. Any plastic also, if you go to the market or sometimes even in the waste product, you find that some digital meter is stopped functioning. So people have just thrown that away. And then in the 7 segment displays, in the box, there is a small strip, red strip or blue strip or green strip, which is made out of plastic. So that can be used as a filter. So you have an white light source filament bulb. In front of that, you can keep the filter. It could be gelatin or plastic or whatever. Ahead of that, you keep the slit and then make a measurement at a particular distance, a fixed distance using the mobile lux meter. You can very well do that. Now, what we are going to make use of this, in which way are we going to do that? Simple. For the timing in this diagram, remove the mobile lux meter and onto the left edge of the mobile lux meter, I have shown a thick kind of spot. That spot is the spot where you are going to place your own eye. Left eye or a right eye, or depends upon your convenience to be tested. Now start from zero intensity of the bulb. Imagine that this is a darkroom experiment. Okay. Even when you don't have access to a darkroom, perhaps you will say, at home, darkroom kahan se aayega? Okay, fine. In that case, this arrangement can be suitably placed in a carton like this, as I showed you, this carton of the bulb, what I had showed you at the beginning. Perhaps you can place the source inside that carton. Now that becomes, a good darkroom as far as the source is concerned. And then you can just create an aperture in that carton and then the arrangement can go on. You can place your eye close to that aperture. Now only when the bulb is given sufficient current with the battery resistance adjusted at some particular point of time, you will realize that your eye is able to sense the presence of that particular color. It could be, say, let us imagine red color. Okay, fine. When that happens, you have to remove your eye from there, place the mobile lux meter in the same position and read the reading. So you have a reading at this distance, this many lux is my minimum requirement for my eye detection. Now the same thing can also be done. If you turn the resistance, decrease it further, the amount of current passing through the bulb will rise. Now the line or aperture will appear more bright. It will be a point spot in that case. Go on increasing when it is clear, then again go on decreasing. Something like, the observation what we make using a thermometer. While the temperature is rising, you take one reading. While the temperature is falling, you make another reading. So the same strategy can be used here also. To take one reading when the light is just barely seen. And from the brighter side, go on diminishing again the intensity of light and again note, what is the reading in the lux meter at that timing when your eye is unable to see that light emanating from the source contained inside that box or in a dark room. Make the average of the two as your reliable reading. So you will realize perhaps that your right eye or left eye, they are not equally sensitive. So even ophthalmologists can also greatly benefit from such projects. Giving exercises to engineering students of this nature is going to be another dimension. Trust me, for this you do not have to invest a great amount. 300 rupees, 400 rupees, 500 rupees is all what you will need. And the kind of knowledge what you will develop will be so good that your level of confidence will quickly rise. At the moment, I find very few students, even after passing out their graduation or post-graduation, the level of confidence is low. Why is the level of confidence low? Basically because all what they have learned is mainly through the resources which are available on the net or through the books or through the journal or sometimes something what their teachers have told them. But in this, their interaction, their processing, I would say rather than interaction, their processing of that information is at the very superficial level. They have not interacted with the devices, they have not played with the devices, they have not created anything out of those devices. But the moment you start adopting this approach, the engineering project approach, you will immensely benefit. You will create your own project signature. Like you have the concept of digital signature in the digital era now to know the authenticity of certain sites or maybe your documents. Something similar will happen. You would have created your own project signature, and your project report itself, will serve much better than hundreds of applications. My suggestion to you, my assurance to you also is that you will be able to get meaningful employment. You will be able to dictate terms. You will be able to convince, your potential employers why they should employ you in a much better way at a proper designation, at a proper pedestal, at the proper level in an institution. Otherwise, if you just keep on writing and taking printouts of applications for this, application for that, hundreds of applications will serve no purpose. But the moment the potential employer realizes that here is a person who has, good knowledge and who is creative, who is innovative, who will be able to deliver a solution if there is any problematic situation, they will definitely think of employing you with proper package. So I once again, thank Dr. Prayag, Dr. Deshpande, Dr. Adkar, and also the principal of your college for providing me this unique opportunity to place my views before you for your consideration. And I wish you all the best, basically, in this new year, 2022, and hope that you make the most of it, by remaining active in every possible way. Wherever you go, learning has to be a 24/7 activity. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Uh, Hello. Thank you
Yes,
so much, sir. Hello.
yes.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
हा बोला मॅडम.
हाँ मैम मी वोट ऑफ थँक्स हे करते.
हा
हाँ
ओके.
ओके. Uh, Good afternoon, all of you. I, on behalf of Modern Education Society's College of Engineering and my team members, to all the organizer, to give my warm thanks to the students for this participation in this session. I want to thank our chief guest, respected Dr. Vijay Raibakar sir, for his vital appearance. Sir, thanks a lot for giving us the your precious time and in your busy schedule. You have added project-based learning approach in the minds of the students, and you have also motivated us to give our best to the students. I also want to thank our principal, Dr. Sunil Sarvade sir, and FE in charge, Dr. Adkar sir, for motivation and guidance. I would like to extend my thanks to Dr. Prayag ma'am and Dr. Ashwini Bhave ma'am for organizing this session smoothly and without any hiccups. I would again want to thank our chief guest, Dr. Vijay Raibakar sir, for his invaluable lecture. With this, students, all of you, thanks for your participation. I would declare this session to get is concluded now. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Ma'am,
Please switch
please
on
wait
your
for
screenshots.
photographs.
division from Com 2. Students from Com 2. Please switch on your camera. So much students, you can switch off now your camera. Students from ENTC 1. Please switch on your camera. Students from ENTC 1. Thank you so much. Now you can switch off your camera. Last revision ENTC 2. Students from ENTC 2, please switch on your camera. Thank you. Now this session has been concluded.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for the great
Thank you,
interactive
ma'am.
session.
Thank
You
you,
are a
sir.
very happy new year.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you,
you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you, sir.
Happy New
Very
Year,
happy new
sir.
year.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Happy New Year, all.
Thank you, sir.
Ma'am, from 3rd Jan, college is offline or online?
Online.